Hey Eurovision fans, it's Tom coming to you from Dublin. I'm back from the Eurovision analysis video. How good is the Eurovision Scoreboard at predicting what the televote in Eurovision is? I decided to look back through previous years and see which songs does it overrate, which songs does it underrate, and see if that gives us any clues about who's going to qualify from the televote only semi-finals this year. I found some really interesting things. I'm going to explain it to you all. Let's kiki. First of all, if you don't know Eurovision Scoreboard, it is a fan app where Eurovision fans can put in their favorite songs from 12 points down to 1 point, and they're all added together and we're given a ranking list. I'm not sponsored by them, but I'm obviously a big fan of the app. I think it's really fun. It's not meant to be taken seriously. So what I did for this video was I went back through all the previous years. All the data is on the app, and I went into the semi-final sections where it only has the semi-final countries in it, and I took those rankings from first down to last and I compared them against what the televote ranking was for that year. So what I was trying to look at was how similar are the rankings in the app compared to the televote. Does the Eurovision Scoreboard predict the televote actual result in the semi-finals? Now, first thing I need to note is that is not the purpose of the app. The app is like a fun, vote for your favorite type thing. So I'm not saying at any point in this video that the app is wrong or right. I'm just saying how similar are they? And when they're different, what type of songs are different? So I'm not saying anyone's wrong. I really love the app. I think I use it a lot, obviously. So of course, this year at Eurovision, the semi-finals are going to be televote only. Now in the past, they were combined, which meant it was the jury and the televote together. So the final thing I did was I looked at if the previous years had also only been televote only, how many of the qualifiers would the Eurovision Scoreboard have predicted correct? So how many of their top 10 were the actual top 10 in the televote? So let's look at that first. So actually the agreement was pretty good. So I looked as far back as 2016, and in those 12 semis I looked at, pretty much every single year either 9 or 8 were right. So on average it was 8.4. Pretty much every single year the top 10 in the Eurovision Scoreboard for a semi, either 8 or 9 of them will be the actual top 10 in the televote. So that's actually really quite a strong agreement. The second thing was, what was the average amount of difference in the rankings between the two? So over those 12 semis, the average ranking difference was 3.2. That means the average difference between the Eurovision Scoreboard and the televote was 3.2. To put that number in context, basically the bigger a semi-final is, the more wrong they can be, because you can have a greater distance between what happened in either column. So in a nutshell, 3.2 is actually pretty good. That's not very far off. Obviously the lowest possible number is 0, which is where every single place is exactly correct. The possibility of that happening is like 1 in a billion. That's like winning the lottery every day for the next 10 years. It's not gonna happen. Another kind of interesting thing is that the two lists are getting more and more similar. I'm going to put up a graph here which shows the ranking difference decreasing as we go from 2016 to 2022. One possibility for that is that the semis are getting like a teeny bit smaller. 2022, there was only one country less than there was in 2016 and 2017. 2018 was the biggest one, and actually you can see it dipped in 2018. So it does seem that there's this weird trend where the Eurovision fandom and the general public are getting like more in line or more in sync. I wonder, is this because like the music in the competition is a little bit more mainstream, is becoming a little bit more popular? We're seeing now that like more people are having like streaming success with Duncan Lawrence and Rosalind. So that's an interesting thing. I wonder if that will continue on, or is it just a coincidence? Now let's go look at some of the songs that the televote overrated and some of the songs that the fandom overrated. I'm trying to be careful how I word this because I don't want to say that either column is wrong. I'm just talking about the difference between. Okay, so let's go to the top 10 fan love songs. So these are the songs that the fans ranked much higher than the televote did. So in number 10th place from Norway 2016, we have Agnete, which is something I'm really upset about. That was one of my favorite songs, one of my top 10 songs, one of the very few years that Norway hasn't qualified. A lovely girl pop song. She was 6th in the scoreboard and 13th in the televote. Okay, in 9th place from 2018, we have Senek, another non-qualifier from Belgium. She was 9th in the scoreboard. Only 9th in the scoreboard? That's really low. I thought she'd be higher. 9th in the scoreboard and 16th in the televote. She was 4th in the running order, which was kind of crappy, and that staging was a little bit of a flop in fairness as well. So a couple of things going against her in the televote. 8th place, we have Benny Christo from the Czechia in 2021, who got 0 points, I think, didn't he? He was 10th on the scoreboard and 17th in the actual televote. He came last. I would consider Benny now as being a little bit of a staging disaster. I'm not sure what happened with them, but it seemed like he didn't want to be there. It was very low energy, very different from the music video, which was super upbeat and fun. Okay, in 7th place, we've got Trina Park from Latvia. Always one of my biggest surprises, this in 2017 actually closed the show. It was the last song of the competition, and then it ended up coming last in the semi-final, which was really shocking for me. I always thought the song that came last had like body armor, that they were completely protected from the televote, but no, they did really badly. 9th in the Eurovision Scoreboard, 17th in the Televote. That's an 8 placing difference. Also note that none of these songs are qualifiers yet. I do have a qualifier for you now, don't worry. In 6th place on the Fan Love chart, we have Senhit from San Marino in 2021. So she was 2nd on the Eurovision app, but she was 10th with the actual Televote, so a ranking difference of 8. Another lady with an upbeat pop song. Don't worry, you will see there's a pattern going to emerge eventually. In 5th place on the Fan Love chart, we have Cyprus from 2019. That's Tamta singing Replay. She was number 1 on the Eurovision Scoreboard, but she was only 10th in the Televote. She did open the show, but Trina Park closed the show, and that didn't help them either. So yes, definitely now you're seeing a pattern start to emerge more, a very upbeat, fun girl bop song. Let's go to 4th place in the Fan Love, and that is Greta Salome from Iceland in 2016. Hear Them Calling. She had a great draw. She was 16th, so definitely not because of her draw. She was 3rd on the app and 13th in the actual Televote. I still don't know what went wrong with that. That was like a real... I remember that being a big shock that year. I actually never downloaded the song, so I can't say that I loved it. But she still made it to 4th in the Fan Love chart, so that's a small compensation. 3rd place is North Macedonia with Jana Brzeska in 2017. This is a very, very big difference. She was 2nd on the app, but 13th in the actual Televote, so really, really, really big difference. And she ended up not qualifying. 11 ranking place difference. Again, another girly upbeat song favored on the Eurovision app. What could this mean? Let's go to the 2nd place and see if anything changes. So the 2nd biggest ranking difference was Malta 2018, Christabel singing Taboo, 7th on the app and last place in the actual Televote. She came 18th in the Televote, so that's a ranking difference of 11. Another girl, a little bit more serious but slightly upbeat song. Let's see who are we gonna have as our number 1. I have to admit I was a little bit surprised by this. This was quite like a really large gap. And actually this person qualified. Did anyone else qualify? Tamta and Senhit qualified. Everyone else didn't qualify. So basically you want to do a little bit better with the Televote. Eurovision Scoreboard if you want to qualify. It was Anja Nielsen from Denmark in 2017. So she was 3rd on the Eurovision app and 16th in the actual Televote. I didn't realize that she was so completely and utterly beloved that year by the fandom that she was 3rd on the app. So yeah, that's a ranking difference of 13. So of every single year that I looked at, all 12 semi-finals, the biggest difference between the fandom and the Televote in terms of the fandom overrating a song was Anja Nielsen from Denmark. Let's look at those 10 songs again though, and you've probably noticed a pattern yourself that they're all girls apart from Benny Cristo. Benny Cristo for me is just a staging flop. That was a good song. He just totally and utterly flopped it completely. I'm not sure what was going on behind the scenes there. Keep in mind a lot of the 2021 artists had been in it already for 2 years, so maybe they were a little bit exhausted. But yeah, everyone else is a girl. This is something I've been saying for years, and this is like a little bit more objective proof of the fact that the Eurovision fandom really does overhype female pop songs, and that's fine. That as a community there are songs that we enjoy a little bit more than the general public, and this is just proof of that. I have other ones as well. These are just the biggest differences, but there is a consistent trend through other years as well. If you look at the countries ranked from 11th to 16th, we've got Steen from Netherlands, Amanda Chenford from Greece, Serbuk from Armenia, Michaela from Malta, Gabriela from Czechia, Hovi Star from Israel, and Nadir from Azerbaijan. Again, mostly girls. Nadir, who was also another Televote flop. Okay, let's go look at the other side now. Let's look at songs that the Televote tends to exaggerate. So these are songs that did much better with the Televote than they did with the Eurovision Scoreboard. Let's look and see who had the biggest differences between those two. I'm calling these ones the Tele Love sections because I couldn't think of it. I didn't spend enough time thinking about these names, and I just want to film now. So let's keep Tele Love as a name. We've got 13 on this list because there were a few tied. So in 13th, we have Dean and Dalal from Bosnia in 2016. That had a ranking difference of 6. Rocco from Croatia in 2019, also with a ranking difference of 6. 11th, we had Serhat from San Marino. Now this was his 2016 entry, which was the one that he did a remix of. He originally was like a slow, kind of weird spoken song. One of the fans in the community suggested he used his disco remix, and he chose that. And now let's get into the top 10. So in 10th place, we have from North Macedonia, Calliope in 2016. She was 14th on the Eurovision scoreboard, but she was 8th in the actual televote. She would have been a televote qualifier, but her jury score was low and she didn't qualify that year. So that's one of the songs I spoke about in my previous video about who would have been the beneficiaries of the televote system before. Calliope would have been one of them. In 9th place, we had Dobob from Netherlands, also from 2016. 2016 was a really, really wild year. Do you remember that graph I showed you earlier where it got more and more and more agreement between the scoreboard and the televote? 2016 was like wild. There's like very, very little agreement between the two of them. So yeah, Dobob had a ranking difference of 6. Is it Dobob or Daobob? I'm not sure. One of them is hopefully correct. Yeah, he was 5th in the televote, but 11th on the scoreboard. There is going to be a pattern emerging, but I'll go a couple more songs before I hint at you what the pattern is. Next up, we have Anita Tarifa from Albania, 2016, again, the year of chaos. She was last on the scoreboard, but 12th on the televote. I think a little bit of that is that Albania has a pretty strong diaspora. Let's go into 7th place, so the ranking difference of 8. We have Victor Krone from Estonia in 2019. So he was 11th in the Eurovision scoreboard, but 3rd in the televote. I didn't realize he did so well in the televote. That's really good. Top 3 in the televote. He had a pretty good running order, but not amazing. Who was 2nd and 1st in that? Australia were 2nd in that televote. That's Kate Miller-Heidke, and Iceland were first, Hartari. So he came 3rd in that semi-final. That was really good. I didn't realize that. He was in Melody Festival in this year as well. So actually a lot of these are qualifiers as well. Calliope didn't qualify, Dobob did. Victor Krone did. The next song qualified as well in 6th place from Ireland. It is Ryan Shaughnessy with Together from 2018, which was in my top 3 that year. It's a shame that I started my channel in 2019 and not 2018, because if it had started in 2018, you would have seen me have a positive Ireland review for once. I like Brooke's song, but like a really positive review, like in my top 3. So yeah, the fandom really underrated it. They had it 14th on the app. He ended up actually coming 6th in the televote. I thought that song was so beautiful. One of like a gorgeous Irish ballad. Oh man, I really wanted to send something like that again. 5th was Yuri from Lithuania. So there were 8 ranking places between him on the scoreboard and the televote. I've always said I think this is a Jasper song. I'm basing that mostly on just they got a lot of heavy points from a small amount of countries. For me, that's a sign of Jasper voting. Also, I don't ever see people talk about this in the community in a negative or positive way. It doesn't seem to be on people's radar. In 4th place, again with 8 place difference between the scoreboard and the televote, was the Black Mamba from Portugal. This was a little bit of a dark assassin in 2021. 13th on the scoreboard, but 5th in the televote. Their staging was really, really, really pretty. Gorgeous visualization of the song. Maybe some people who put in the rankings and hadn't seen the staging. My ranking would have gone up having seen the staging from that. So, okay, keep in mind though, are you noticing a pattern? Tell me if you are. In 3rd place, we have another qualifier. Now, everyone here qualified. We have Trenetul from Moldova. Trenetul. I'm saying it wrong, aren't I? Sorry, I've forgotten how to pronounce Trenetul. But they were 2nd in the televote and 11th on the app. So it's a ranking difference of 9 places. And then we have the top 2, both with a ranking difference of 10. In 2nd place, Croatia, 2017, Jack Hudek. He was 15th on the app, but he came 5th in the televote. We know that the televote kind of likes like fun, goofy things. He did that half opera, half normal singing thing. I thought his staging was absolutely gorgeous. I really didn't like this song going into the competition. I was actually at that semi-final in Kiev, and I was kind of watching the stage like, oh, I actually do like this performance. He actually converted me during the semi-final. Okay, and then finally, the king of fan hatred. He's on this list twice. He was previously on it in 11th. He's back in 1st place. Again, it's Serhat from San Marino in 2019, again with a ranking difference of 10. In case you're wondering, I used a little tie break to break up the ones that were the same. He was 14th on the app, but he came 4th in the televote. Yeah, possibly a little bit of diaspora voting there. I know that obviously Serhat is Turkish, and with Turkey out of the competition, any Turk love would be possibly directed to him. But yeah, look, let's look at these top 10 again and see, do you see there's a pattern here? These are pretty much all guys. Serhat, Jack, Trenetul, Black Mamba, Jury, Ryan Shaughnessy, Victor Krone. The top 7 are all boys. Not necessarily a single genre of music. Serhat's kind of upbeat, Jack is as well. Black Mamba's more low-key, Jury's a ballad, Ryan Shaughnessy is obviously a ballad as well. It's hard to tell if it's because the Eurovision fandom are ranking them down or because the Televote are over-ranking them. Like, do the Televote have a bigger affinity for men and the Eurovision fandom have a bigger affinity for women, and then it's exaggerated both ways, or is it just one and the other? Look, it's up for you to decide. As I said, nothing in this is right or wrong. I'm just looking to see how similar are they? And the big difference you'll see is that men tend to get overrated by the televote and underrated by the fandom, and girly songs, girly upbeat songs are overrated by the fandom and underrated by the televote. Now, how does that apply to this year? Well, I wonder who the top 2 favorites to win Eurovision are. Well, it does so happen that we've got a pop girly and a boy. So make from it what you will, but this is something I've been saying for a while. I do think that those 2 are the favorites to win this year, but currently the odds have it that Loreen is double Karia's chance, which I think is ridiculous. I think they're pretty 50-50 at this point in time, especially considering that Loreen is going to have to change her staging. She's not able to hang things from the roof. And what I've just hopefully shown you there is that there is a huge exaggeration for pop girls in Eurovision. Who is the poppiest, girliest queen of Eurovision? It's Loreen. So if anyone's going to have like a lot of big extra love, it's going to be her. I still think that she's a favorite. I think that it's much more even Stevens than odds would have you believe. Also keep in mind, like I said, boys tend to be underrated by the community, overrated by the televote, but the televote is what's actually going to decide it. So this could be a good sign for Gary as well, that his score is actually going to be higher. Lorraine's score is probably going to be a little bit lower, and that's why I'm saying I think they're actually pretty even going into the final. Let's whiz through some of the other years and just point out others, some of the smaller changes. 2022, so in semi-final number 1, the fans ranked Halo from Austria 4 places higher, Secret from Ranella 4 places higher, and Amanda Tiemford 6 places higher from Greece. The televote ranked Trenatul, as I said, also Snap from Armenia 5 places higher than the community, so they kind of picked up a little bit that was going to be hit. I think that was 5th. Still is such a surprise that did so kind of okay, but then went on to just be this amazing thing. That's still one of the like most joyful, weird things that's come out of Eurovision in recent years for me. And also surprisingly, Monica Lyo doing 4 places higher in the televote. So that's one thing that goes against my girly thing, but it's not 100%, but it's a trend, it's a pattern, not an absolute rule. So semi-final number 2, everything was in 4 ranking places, so really close year between the televote and the fans. Some of the people that the televote ranked higher were Jezebel from the Rasmus from Finland, WRS from Romania, and Jeremy from Belgium. So again, 3 boys being ranked higher by the televote. They were all 4 places higher. Let's have a quick look at 21. This was the most accurate. The average difference was less than 2. So no real massive changes to be pointed out. Here, the biggest one for the fans was Elena Sagrinu, El Diablo, 5 places higher than it was in the televote. That again is another fun, girly song. For the televote ranking higher, they had Tix 4 places higher, and Michael Ben David 3 places higher. So that's another interesting thing, is that generally the LGBT plus men, the televote tends to favor them higher than the app, which is something I find a little bit unusual. I noticed that with WRS, it happened with Michael Ben David, Fjork Flamme as well, were 5 places higher in the televote. Yeah, there was a kind of a surprising, pretty much everyone but Hovey Star, who's been kind of like openly LGBT plus, has actually done better in the televote than have in the app. Now that really surprised me. I don't know what the reason for that is. Again, in semi-final number 2, that was the one where I already talked about Adrenalina and Benny Cristo. We also had Stefania and Samantha Tina, both having been 5 places higher in the fan vote, so more girly bops. I don't know how much evidence I need to give you. And then in the televote, I already spoke about Black Mamba, also Fjork Flamme. That's strange to me. That did very well in the televote, but not so well on the app. And then finally 2019, I already spoke about Tamta, but also Katerina Duska from Greece and Televote from Portugal, 6 and 5 places respectively higher on the scoreboard. And the televote, I already spoke about Serhat and Victor Krohn, but also Tulia, they were 5 places higher in the televote. And then the last semi I'll look at, Panda from Austria, she was 4 places higher. Sarah McTiernan from Ireland, also 4 places higher. Whereas the televote, Anna Obadescu, so a rare girl on the televote ranking higher song. One small thing to note is that the numbers I'm taking from previous years, those would have been the numbers just before the semi-final went live. So they would have seen all the rehearsals, they would have seen the performances, they would have had a lot more information than we do now. So obviously we haven't had rehearsals yet. We don't know who's going to be a flop or who's going to have like this amazing stage. So there is a slight difference in the timing. So because the Eurovision scoreboard this year isn't at that stage yet, I'm not going to look at the 2023 semi-final scoreboards right now. I'm going to wait until the pre-parties and rehearsals have finished and save it for a future video. There is a possibility as well that people in previous years went back and changed their results afterwards. I don't know why anyone would do that. It'd be quite a weird thing to do. I think most of the time when the semi-final is over, people just like focus on the final and move on. So what are my conclusions? Obviously, as we get closer to the competition, the Eurovision Scoreboard will get a little bit more accurate, it seems. And that's the main thing I take away, is that even though they're very different systems, Eurovision Scoreboard is giving points, Televote is just calling for one vote. They are different systems. They still have quite strong agreement. I think that sums up one thing in Eurovision, is you're trying to get a song with a very broad appeal that applies to both Eurofans and the general public. It appeals to everybody. That's a song that's really going to have success both in the competition and in selling afterwards as well. So that's the best strategy to have. But yeah, they're all the things I have, and this video is 46 minutes. I need to finish it because it's going to be a nightmare to edit. If you liked all the stats that I had today, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Obviously, it helps me a lot with the algorithm. And I've got 11 videos that I'm currently working on right now. So don't forget to keep an eye out for new videos coming really soon. I'm going to be busy all of April, don't worry. I'm going to get you through until we get to May. This is kind of like a quietish period right now. Okay, that's my stat fest from comparing Eurovision Scoreboard and the Tele. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and thanks so much for watching. See you in the Eurovision analysis video very soon. Goodbye. Blah, 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 blah.